Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to the Cheeky Punt podcast. I'm your host Pez and you are here for the Cheeky Punt pod finals version because we are recording for Friday and the Saturday game Sauce.
That's correct, Pez. Great to be able to separate the shows into two of the main highlights of the final series, the Port Adelaide Geelong game and then the rest of them. So I like the way that we've definitely spread out these shows.
Yeah, definitely. We don't get the teams for the St Kilda Bulldogs and the West Coast Collingwood yet. That'll happen at about 6:25 tonight. But we do get the teams for the Brisbane-Richmond game, so we've got a lot of information about that game to be able to place some bets. We don't have to place any futures because they're already done. We are going to be doing a recap show early next week where we recap all the final series. Sauce listeners, he didn't really want to talk about last night's game with Geelong going down because a lot of his bets did revolve around that as well.
Yeah, still a little bit somber from Geelong's performance last night, so I'll need a couple of days to recover, and then hopefully on our recap show, Pez will be a little bit up and about and I'll be motivated to kick on.
Yeah, well, at least you got the double chance and at least the Cats are still in, but change of heart from you, I'm guessing?
Yeah, change of heart for who I want to win tonight, most definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely going for Brisbane. And it's really interesting because it looks like the punters are starting to jump on Brisbane as well. The odds have significantly shifted, but definitely a different philosophy now that I know what happened last night. Definitely going for Brisbane tonight. And I don't know if I want Collingwood or West Coast to play next week, so I still haven't worked that one out, but that'll shift probably throughout the show.
That was a good game last time this year when West Coast played you guys.
It was a cracking game. I think I'd probably prefer Collingwood. Yeah. But both teams have beaten us, so I don't know who I'd technically prefer.
Yeah, no, it's big stuff, especially when you're on the verge of going out in straight sets. There's a lot of pressure around the club because they've lost a lot of finals in the last few seasons. And what we spoke about yesterday is you guys not having a ruckman, and it showed last night as well. Yeah,
we're not going to get into it here, Pez. You're starting to tempt me. I can see you there dangling the little carrot there, trying to get me involved. But 25% winning rate since 2000. I think it was 2007. No, it must have been a bit later than that, but it's 25% over the last 12 matches we've played in finals, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, not good enough for a team of that calibre who's finished in the top four a lot of times, but we will get into it in depth in our recap show. But today, what we're doing, we're excited for Friday night footy. It's finals footy, another qualifying final, Brisbane versus Richmond, and we've got the two finals tomorrow. So let's get into the bet slip and we'll get started.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now Bex with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
oh yes, yes, yes.
Well, there we have it. That gets us pumped up. And Sauce, you don't want to be talking about footy too much because I'm feeling that you're a little bit disappointed. Yeah, we expected the Cats to win. A lot of Geelong supporters would be utterly disappointed that they have to travel the tough road to try and get into a prelim and then try and get into a grand final. So it's a very important game tonight because the winner of this goes straight into a prelim, opposite side of Port Adelaide, and the loser will have to play again next week, which isn't always ideal. So Brisbane Lions versus Richmond. Now, Richmond usually have the wood over them. Introduce this game for us.
Well, we've got Brisbane Lions, as you said, finishing second, Richmond finishing third. An absolute cracker. These two teams played last year in the exact same final, and Richmond prevailed by, I think it was 37 points. Brisbane go in as the outsiders despite a home final, $2, and despite finishing higher. Richmond, $1.80 favourites. The line is 2.5 pairs. Really interested. This market has significantly shifted in the week, and Richmond started, I think, $1.60 as the favourites, and they've come right out into $1.80. So they still are favourites, but they are shortening.
Yeah, definitely. I looked at it before. I was surprised Brisbane into $2 and Richmond at $1.80. But we heard the news earlier in the week on the Monday that Tom Lynch was ruled out on Monday, which is really strange because clubs, they usually, if they've got an injury like that, they wait till the final hour because they don't want to give the other club enough information about their side. But they must have just thought, you know what, he's not playing. We're going to play Marbia Chol, and this is going to happen. We're not hiding anything. We're Richmond. They are bringing back in Dion Prestia. But here are the changes. We've got Cam Ellis-Yolman and Jack Payne omitted for Jared Berry and Harris Andrews. So significant boost to the Brisbane Lions team, especially in defence there with Harris Andrews over Jack Payne. Jack Payne just being a young fellow who's got his first game this year and has been struggling a bit in some cases and losing one-on-one contests and things like that. Josh Caddy has been omitted. He was one really important Richmond player in that 2017 run. So it's surprising to see him as the 23rd player, literally, because he comes in and out of the side. Jack Ross also omitted. Probably not his fault. They're just very talented in there, and he's a young fella trying to get through. Shea Bolton comes in, and Dion Prestia comes in. So they are two massive names. Haven't played footy in a while, but interesting to see how they go. Yeah,
very interesting, and it's interesting when you have two big ins like Harris Andrews for the Brisbane Lions, massive in. You'd really back him into their best side, all Australian, and the same with Richmond. Both teams get stronger. You would say with both these ins, they're pretty much both at full fire. Richmond obviously missing Lynch, as you mentioned, but a bit disappointing that Caddy couldn't make the cut, but that just shows you the calibre of this Richmond side, that a premiership hero like Caddy, who's been in pretty decent form throughout the last month or so, can't get into the side.
Yeah, I would think the one to miss out and be on the fringe would be Daniel Rioli. I think he's really struggled over the past month of footy. He has kicked some goals, which has probably saved his spot, but I don't think his disposal has been up to it, and I think he's done.
Last week saluted his spot. He kicked two goals. Or the week before that, 2 goals, and in a nothing game, kicking those goals, he does bring that excitement, and I think that's the one of those players. When you saw it last night with Stevie Motlop, he's one of those players where you don't need a lot of the possessions, but when they do get the ball, they can be electric. They do have that offer, that X factor, and if Rioli can offer what Motlop offered last night, 3 kicks, 3 goals. In crucial stages, around the body, get the team going, then you definitely got to have him in there. Consistency, I mean, what is consistency for an X factor sort of player? Like those players that pop up and kick a goal, what's a consistent game for those players?
Yeah, well, at least a goal a game, I guess. So if he's doing that, he's doing that. But I just think his disposal around the ground and he's actually positioning and stuff he has been struggling with, just noticing that watching Richmond games. I think the pressure's on tonight, and it's finals footy, there's always pressure. But Brisbane, coming off last year, we've mentioned it already, they lost in straight sets last year, and they're playing Richmond again, who they played in the first qualifying final. If they lose this one at home after finishing second again, playing in their home state for nearly the whole season, it is going to be a struggle. And Richmond don't have Tom Lynch, so Brisbane's best opportunity, but Richmond still go in as favourites with all that finals experience.
So it's interesting you say that because obviously coming into the season, Richmond, everyone was the heavy favourite. Coming to this final series, the heavy favourite. Richmond coming from third, heavy favourite. Almost a month out from finals, not even in the top 4. They were the favourite for the flag. Is the pressure on Brisbane needing to solidify a qualifying final berth, or is it on Richmond Tigers, who have been the flag favourite since about round 7, despite even being in the top 4?
Oh, it's 100% on both clubs. So whoever loses, there's some backlash happening because if Richmond lose, you're premiership favourites. You're not going to be able to win it now. You're on that side of the draw. You have to play an extra week. If Brisbane lose, though, I think there'll be more backlash because they've lost their 2 finals last year. They need to win a final. This team is up and coming. I didn't think they'd get in the top 4 this year. I didn't know COVID was happening. They're going to play every game in Queensland. But they've impressed me. And Lachie Neale's been playing outstanding footy. He'll win the Brownlow medal, and they have a couple of no-name players really that a lot of Victorian supporters wouldn't really know that stand up and do their job week in, week out. They got Jared Lyons, who was a big pickup from the Gold Coast. He didn't fit over there, and imagine him at Gold Coast this year if he was playing like that. But he's really important to their thing. And if Eric Hipwood can kick straight and get some shots on goal, he could kick 3 or 4 goals and be the difference here.
Yeah, most definitely. You spoke about Brisbane playing up into the Gabba for most of the year. They've gone 9-0 this year at the Gabba this year, which is huge. They try to make that a fortress as it is, but Richmond have been probably the most successful club at the Gabba, winning its last 11 matches in there, dating back to 2005. Really interesting that you mentioned these no-name players around the ground. You have to look at Brisbane's side, and you have to say, like looking at it, someone that looks at football quite in depth. They've got quite a great mixture of experience and young and up and coming stars, and you look around that ground and you don't really see any weaknesses. Of course, that makes perfect sense being a top 2 side, but around Richmond's side, there's some areas there that's there's some lesser names. They've got the premiership experience, but you have to say in terms of talent and the way that they've been performing this year, you have to sort of lean towards Brisbane just on the consistent sort of middle round players, like not their best 20, not their top players, but that middle sort of the ground players.
Yeah, so you're talking like top 6, bottom 6, middle 6 as well. But I think Richmond's defence is really, really strong, like super strong. And I think that's where they can get exploited, Brisbane, because Darcy Gardner and Ryan Lester down there in defence as well. I know Harris Andrews will be able to, take Rewalt, and I don't know if we'll be able to hold him to anything without having thing there. Marby Achol, he needs to step up and do a couple of things today. Really important game for him. He's actually impressed me in a few games this year that I've watched him in. Very athletic and gets around the ground. So if he can, separate space and make them focus on him as well and not have to sag off him and help on Rewalt, it will go really well for Richmond winning the game.
Yeah, most definitely. And you spoke about Brisbane's defence being sort of lacklustre in talent. Zach Bailey, Ryan Lester, Grant Birchall, they're going to have the tough job because they're lining up against, the half forwards of Castagna, who we know loves to pop up for a goal, Shea Bolton, who's been in ripping form, and Dusty Martin, the finals elite beast that is Dusty Martin. And you have to lean towards, in terms of elite talent and the strength around the ground, in terms of their forward line. Richmond definitely can exploit Brisbane there, but I sort of don't mind if, against a Richmond side that, do sort of hold themselves on a defensive sort of brand of football. Brisbane have so many offensive weapons when they're on target. We know they lead the lead in behinds. We know that they can pile on a score really quickly when accurate, and they can blow up games. And I think that if a team is going to beat Richmond this year, Brisbane, with all this expectation and pressure, is a decent shot to do it. We sort of, the last probably 2 months, the wheels have sort of started to come off from Richmond. They had those injuries early in the year. They've had all that trouble in the media with, the fingers in the unregioned places you don't want them to go, and they've had a couple of players kicked out of the COVID hub. Are the wheels coming off, or is this just Richmond facing adversity and on the way to a third premiership?
Facing adversity, if you're a Hawthorn supporter, you're a Geelong supporter, you wouldn't want this Richmond Tigers team to win another premiership, because then they go into the discussion as well. Also, Brisbane with their three-peat earlier in the century. Last time they played
in the century, it's just the way funny that you said it. So, in the last fucking 100 years.
2001, 2002, 2003, not the last 100 years, early in the century. But last time, you remember, Richmond beat them by 41 points, but that was the game where Brisbane kicked 4 goals, 17. They could not kick a goal to save themselves, and they should have been in that game a lot more than they were, and Richmond won by 41 points. It's set up for a classic, this one.
Yeah, and as we said, those half forwards, Dusty Martin kicked 6 goals in the opening final. Dusty Martin kicks 6 goals and you kick 17 points. Chance in for a win. Brisbane need to come out. And again, this year, the highest criticism for Brisbane has been being able to score. They sort of neatened it up in the last couple of weeks. Stop having those, they're not getting as many behinds. But I think they've become less reckless with those shots on goal, those pings from nowhere. So, interesting game. It sounds like we're both leaning towards Richmond. I mean, I'm going to be cheering for Brisbane, but it sounds like in terms of actually talent alone, we're both leaning for Richmond.
Yeah, if I have to tip the game, I'll probably tip Richmond to win. You get a pretty good price, so if you want to use the points bet special with the halftime leading, I use that in the personal last night's source with Geelong, and Geelong were leading with 40 seconds in that second quarter there, and then gave up a goal on the halftime siren, so that was disappointing. Didn't get paid out and didn't win in the end, but what do you got?
I've gone with Sportsbet, the 4-leg or the 3-leg same game multi. I've chucked a 4th leg in there just to get over a little bit of extra value, and there's no chance that it's not getting up.
Here we go.
Well, we know finals is a low-scoring affair at normal, but Sportsbet haven't adjusted their normal alternative lines for total points. Okay. So under 150 points, which the game is most definitely going to go under that with the tight contested game that both these sides play. I put that in there, and it's $1. Like.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think the line for this game was 111. Like, that's the total points game. So it's going under 150 points. Watch it below up to 200 points each night. But I've gone that
Be
with
90, 80 or something.
I've gone that with Dustin Martin, anytime goal scorer. As I said, I think Brisbane really struggle in that sort of that half-back sort of line. And Dusty Martin, I've got him for most goals in the AFL final series, so he's got to snag a goal tonight. He'll probably kick 3 or 4. I've gone Jared Lyons to get 15. As you said, Pez, an absolute beast. He's been a great pickup for Brisbane Lions. Collects that in his sleep. And the one that I've gone a little bit unnoticed this week in terms of the media, I've gone with Dion Prestia to get 20 disposals. Now, he's coming back from a first game, and normally I like to steer away from players returning from injury, but I actually think he's been ready for the last month. I think they've been just nursing him back, getting him ready, and he is absolutely ready to fire. So he will get that pretty easily, Pez. And that gives me odds of $2.25, and I've chucked 25 on that. One leg fails, money back, of course.
Yep, and taking advantage of that sports bet thing, very, very good. I like your Dustin Martin leg because I've got a 3-leg same-game multi, and I've got Dustin Martin as an anytime goal scorer as well. I think he's decent value. I think it was only $1.22 or something like that, but he is going to spend a bit of time up forward. They're going to try and exploit, especially with Tom Lynch out of the side. They need some more scoring power. So Dustin Martin one-on-one, one of the best one-on-one players down there, and I'm not sure who's going to go to him. Shea Bolton, I like him to get 15. He wasn't getting 15 when Presti was in the side earlier in the year, Sauce, but his role has stepped up, and he's got this little first step that he does, and I just love watching it. So I kind of want to cheer for him tonight, and every time he gets the pill, I'll be able to celebrate. So him to get 15. And Jaden Short coming off the bench. Basher Hooley's back in the side, so I've gone a bit risky as well. Jaden Short to get 15 because he was about $1.36, and he was killing it when Basher Hooley was out of the side, but he is a good kick, and they have used him in the past. So finals footy, you got to keep possession of the ball. Richmond want to keep the ball out of Brisbane's hands, so I think that he can get a few more possessions. That gets me $2.20.
What are you whacking on that one?
That's a max 50.
Max 50. Jesus, you're going hard or go home in this one. I wouldn't expect anything different from Pez. There's probably like 3 bets of 50 and one of 40, and then you've got your $10 multi. Is that about right?
No.
Two $10 bets for the cheeky.
I'm just going max on each final, I reckon.
Max on each final. Okay. So that's the 200. Oh, Jesus. I've gone something a little bit different. But let's get into the next game, Pez. Something that I know that you're eager to...
No, let's not talk about it.
Let's go something that I know that you're eager to talk about. Pez, it definitely helped yesterday talking about the Geelong final to ease my nerves. It didn't help in terms of the result, but it did definitely ease my nerves. We've got the St Kilda game versus the Western Bulldogs. This game is played in Queensland at the Gabba. 225 for your Saints. Amazing that they have drifted out so far, and Western Bulldogs enter as heavy favourites, $1.65. The line's 5.5. Really, really shocked with how these odds are. And I know the reason why. It's because everyone just expects the Bulldogs just happy to be in the finals, just to get in their 8th place. They do this Cinderella story, but you know what? I think that that's totally disrespectful towards what St Kilda has achieved this year. They have been one of the top 6 sides this year, and I think they should deserve at least the heavy favourite tag.
No, I'm happy to be underdogs against the Dogs. That's perfectly fine because the punters have gone off form because the Bulldogs, they've been in form. They've been able to win games, especially under tight pressure. That game against West Coast when Bontempelli kicked that goal from 50 metres out when he should have been kicking from 55 metres out, but the man on the mark thing, we've explained that before in the podcast. They've got to stop doing that. And also umpires do need to stop changing rules in week to week, game to game, especially for finals. But I'm super nervous about this game. St Kilda haven't played in the finals since 2011. A lot of players haven't played. I listened to Brad Hill earlier this week on SEN on the radio. He seems like the happiest guy in the world, and he gave up a little bit of information with Josh Battle going out. Obviously, I think Zach Jones will come back in and take his place. And he mentioned Hunter Clark has been playing in the midfield the last few weeks. Remember that game earlier in the year, Sauce, where I had Hunter Clark for 20 because I thought he'd be playing in the midfield a lot. He didn't do it that night, but the last couple of weeks, he's gone into the midfield. He's dominated. He's Pendlebury-like with his movements and his space that he gets around him. So he could be a big-time player in the finals. I am worried. Last time, St Kilda beat the Bulldogs. So we got over the top of them really easily against them earlier in the season. But Mitch Wallace wasn't playing like he is up forward. And Aaron Norton wasn't in the side as well. So they've finals experience. They've got a young and upcoming team. Tim English versus Paddy Ryder and Rowan Marshall will be very interesting. I think St Kilda will get the taps and things like that. So if St Kilda can win in the clearances and get it going forward, They do need to kick straight in finals. You always need to kick straight. If you don't kick straight, you don't win. We saw that last night with Geelong taking lots of shots from the boundary. So very nervous, but the St Kilda defence has stood up, and there's some no-name defenders down there like Wilkie, who's done his job game in, game out since he came to the club, an accountant from South Australia, and he doesn't get spoken about much. But Dougal Howard as well will play probably on Aaron Norton, and I don't know, I could just keep talking about the game, but I am very nervous, and I've got to wait till 4:40 on Saturday. Yeah,
you are very nervous there, Pez. I can definitely hear that's because I think I finished my whole beer during that little spiel there. I love what you said about Hunter Clark. The Pendlebury comparison is so evident when you watch him play. When you watch Pendlebury, time just stands still, and they look like they have so much time.
It's
and
unbelievable.
It's one of those things where you're like, just as a supporter, you're like, tackle.
Just get him.
Yeah, and you're like, he's right there, and then you watch them just evade players, and with that, that poise as well, making the right decision for a young player most of the time. Him stepping into your midfield is an absolute win, and I don't know why they haven't been playing him more in there.
Yeah, it must be something to do with his fitness levels.
Or structure, but
if because he's good off half back, but he's a monster in the midfield with that space and that time. So if we can keep incorporating him in spurts into the midfield, that'll be awesome. I think Josh Battle he's a bit of a utility player. He'll be a little bit of a loss, but we do get a good player coming in as well. And I've got my Max King bet at $201 for the most goals in the final, so hoping he kicks 8 tomorrow.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because you look at both these teams, and they're two teams that obviously finished in sort of same sort of proximity. Their lists are very similar. They've got, there's no real obvious downfalls for either team, but I do think St Kilda has an advantage in the forward line. I think that we've seen in the past the Doggies really struggle against big forwards. You have got some players that have that sort of durability to go back and become big. You've got Max King down there. You've got the other bloke with the tats who his name's always pronounced wrong.
Membry.
That's right, because I always call him Membrane and he always tell me off. But I think you've got a lot of you can expose them above the ground, like above the sort of the play of the football. You can get them in the air.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'm not going to expose them under the ground because we're not digging a hole.
You know what I meant, dickhead.
Down at the Gabba. But watching games at the Gabba this year, I never noticed it early on, like in the 2000s when Brisbane were dominating. But it's such a small ground. You get a clearance, you get a shot on goal, and it's very frustrating if a team gets on top at the Gabba and they're against you and they get a clearance because they get a shot on goal nearly every single time because it's just straight out. It's like down at Skilled or and things like that. So it's not ideal. St Kilda chose to play here as well, so they must enjoy playing here. We lost to Brisbane by 2 points about a month ago as well. So if it's the midfield battle for mine, whoever wins that midfield battle gets their better opportunities from the forwards, but don't surrender and take pot shots from the boundary line like Geelong did last night. You've got to get better entries inside forward 50.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those midfield battles. That contested ball that we know both teams love to win. Bontempelli, an absolute superstar, needs to stand up. If St Kilda are going to win this game, Steele needs to be playing in the same sort of form he has been all year. Needs to win the contested pill, and they need to utilise that short exit out of the forward, out of the centre ground to create quick options and quick shots on goal.
I'm tipping Jaron Geary plays a bit of a role on Caleb Daniel as well because Fremantle shut down Caleb Daniel for a half and he didn't have an influence on the first half against Fremantle the other week. So if they can stop Caleb Daniel, one of the best kicks in the AFL, that'll go a long way to winning as well. Nervous to play against Tom Liberatore as well because he is a contested beast. So they're going to have to put some work in there and try and do something as well.
Yeah, let's hope that you find a good bowler to line up to him because we know in finals he just hits tons, mates.
Mate, what an interview after the 2016
I actually watched that today. I was with a mate and I'm like, they sent across the film to me. They're like, oh, remember Liberatore? He hit a ton off, I think it was Williams, he said. So yeah, they put Williams out there and just knocked him off over the fence. You're an absolute legend. But hopefully for your sake, Pez, and for my sake and my bet, that he's not hitting a ton. Hopefully he gets out for a duck because I think St Kilda, I'm tipping St Kilda. My bet's St Kilda centred, but start us off, Pez. Start us off with a nice little win. Come on. What are we betting for tomorrow? What are we cheering for?
Let's go Saints head to head on points bet, max 50. Let's just bet with the heart. Let's do it. 50. Max, St Kilda, I got them at 210 on PointsBet, which is a little bit less than what you can get elsewhere, but you do get that halftime special.
And we saw last night if that last goal hadn't accounted, Pez, in your personal account, you would have paid out for all Geelong punters. Really disappointing to lose the lead within the last 40 seconds or whatever it was and go into the half down. I've gone with St Kilda, Pez, but in this one, I've gone a little bit
Cheeky!
because I was having a little bit of research looking at finals. We know finals are close games because, there's contested. The second qualifying final, Pez, not always that close. The last 4 years, the results have been 58, 49, 55 and 47. And it doesn't matter what teams that they're playing. So last year, the Doggies lost by 58 points against GWS. The year before, Sydney got flogged by GWS. The year before that, Essendon, as we know. And the year before that, the Doggies actually flogged West Coast. I'm going with St Kilda to win by 40 plus, Bez.
What?
Going 40 plus, $10. There's $10 on the $12 odds. It's a pocket 120. And I think basically what will happen is St Kilda will get off to an absolute flyer, and the Doggies being happy just to be there. Oh, congratulating everyone. Oh, yeah, we're playing AFL. Oh, yeah, finals football. After the first quarter, they'll drop their heads. They'll start planning their postseason trip, and they'll start thinking about going home from the hub, and St Kilda will just pile it on, and we know that St Kilda can pile it on.
I hope you're right. I hope your bet wins. I'm just following your bet, but it's in games like these, Sauce, as you would know last night, where we're punters, but we're footy fans first, and we just love watching the footy, and the money doesn't really matter at the moment. It's just about if your team can get up, and if you can make a little bit with it, why not? And if you lose the $50, you're going to be as disappointed anyway as you would have been if your team lost.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, it's only 10 for me, Pez, but I am doing it for you, Pez. Support the Saints. I've been on the Saints this year. I like them. I like what they're doing, and I do think that if they come up against Geelong, that it's a good chance for us to beat them over the Doggies. So I'd take St Kilda there. All right, let's get into the final game of the finals, the other elimination final. We have West Coast playing Collingwood. West Coast going in as favourites, of course, playing at SBS Stadium, $1.45. Collingwood outsiders, $2.75. The line is 12.5. Last time these teams played, West Coast used the opportunity to really start to come home, and they really thumped Collingwood, knocking them out of the water in that first quarter.
That was 10-goal victory around there.
Exactly right. But since then, they haven't been all up. They've been a little bit up and down. Collingwood's a bit the same. A lot of injuries have depleted both of these sides. What happens in this one, Pez?
Yeah, it's hard for both of these sides because Collingwood earlier in the year losing Jeremy Howe is massive loss. Eagles, they announced, I think last week or the week before, Elliot Yeo is out for the whole final series and the whole year. So that's a massive loss as well. But it's who can combat that. I think Eagles at home, it's hard to go past the hour at $1.45, as you said. And I just love the crispness of when you do the intro there and just SBS Stadium. And I'm just thinking of the new listeners and they're going, what the hell are these guys on about with SBS Stadium? It's called Optus.
No, it's not. It's not called Optus because they lost that contract with the last World Cup when Optus was meant to promote the World Cup exclusively to Optus Net, or whatever they call it.
It had to be online. You had to watch it online.
Only way you could do it.
You couldn't watch the soccer.
No.
And then
Australia, biggest game for Australia, and couldn't be doing it.
So they had to call SBS and say, hey, can you get us out of this shit?
Get us out of this shit. So SBS Stadium, mate, because they have taken the lead. They're the forefront of live entertainment, and, mate, you got to be crisp with it. You got to be crisp.
They are. It's the thing with Collingwood here. Their forward line is pretty weak with Mason Cox, Brody Myercheck. I don't think they're big finals-type atmosphere players, but it's Jordan De Goey factor. If he turns it on and he kicks 4 or 5, they can win any game that they are in because they've got Jordan De Goey. They've got Pendlebury. They've got Taylor Adams in the middle, he's All-Australian this year. He's had an amazing season. They've got Chalor, who gets a lot of the pill. West Coast, they've got Nick Nat-Nui. They've got Tim Kelly. They've got Andrew Gaff on the wing. They've got Kennedy and Darling up forward. They've got Liam Ryan up forward. And for that reason, their forward line being so much stronger, I'm going to go towards West Coast at home to give Collingwood a bit of a touch-up again.
Yeah, I'm much the same. As you said, not only do they have the experience and the class, but they've got staples around their ground. I love their forward line, and I think whilst Collingwood's defence this year has been one of the best ones with Darcy Moore and Maynard back there, really containing a lot of the forward entries, they've got too many weapons that can hurt you. Darling, Kennedy, Ryan, and then you've got that sort of abundance of players that pop up for a goal. The old mate Oscar. You got Tim Kelly that loves to snag one out of the midfield. There's heaps of players that can just pop up there. I think that they're going to be too strong, and we know that what West Coast like to do in finals, they like to pile it on quickly. They like to pile it on, and we saw last night how impactful a full house was and how influential it was, especially towards the umpires. We forget that these umpires have only performed in front of 20,000, 15,000, 10,000, and they're going to be facing 30,000 all dedicated West Coast fans on the weekend, in 2 days. I think it's going to be just too overwhelming for Collingwood to stay competitive for the whole game.
Yeah, it's massive. I think they've lost too much. And just for the fans out there, if you don't already, which I'm sure everyone does, Liam Ryan, watch him closely. He is an absolute gun. He's one of those players that we spoke about before, Sauce. Doesn't need the ball a lot in his hands to make a massive impact on the game. Yeah,
massive impact to the game. And what I like about him is he doesn't even just offer the X factor. He has the X factor. We spoke about Daniel Rioli earlier about what we expect from him as an X factor player, and we said it consistently kicking a goal. Liam Ryan, we expect for him about 15 touches, a couple of crucial marks, a couple of snags, as well as a couple of goal assists. He's elite pressure around the ground. He just, every time he goes near the ball, he's clean, he's crisp, he's smooth.
Something good happens.
And you look back at the premiership that they won, who took that contested mark? Like, it always gets overshadowed by the Dom Sheed's goal. But the actual mark...
What a goal.
But the actual mark that Liam Ryan takes before that is an under pressure, running back with the flight of them, 2-on-1 mark, and then to hit Dom Sheed on the tit, lace out, like...
It's
elite.
amazing.
It's elite.
He's just getting better and better. And a young man, one of your favourite Sauce, Isaac Ranking, he needs to take a leaf out of Liam Ryan's book, because at the moment, Isaac Ranking's all about the X factor. He's trying to do too much. He's just got to simplify it, do what Liam Ryan does, do the simple things correct, and that X factor stuff will come. So we look forward to watching him next season. So my bet for this game, Sauce, I've gone for the sports bet same game multi. We've chucked the max 50 on it. I've got Andrew Gaff to get 20 or more disposals. I've got Tim Kelly to get 20 or more disposals. Tight, contested, finals footy type game. And Liam Ryan, my man, to kick a goal, $2.25.
Love that bet, Pez, because if all those things happen, West Coast are winning. Tim Kelly last year was an absolute finals contested beast. Came third in terms of the most disposals in finals, so I love that bet. And if your bet gets up and Liam Ryan gets one, then it's pretty close for me getting up, because I'm glad we spoke about how impactful he is and how great he is to watch. He's one of my favourites. I've gone Liam Ryan to kick 2 goals. We had this in last year's final, Pez. Do you remember watching that with him to have 2 goals?
Which final is this? Who'd they play?
They played Essendon. No, it was a final. Yeah, they played Essendon in the finals last year, and bang, had him to kick 2 goals. And remember we were in the empty bar at the Sporting Globe.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
I've gone the exact same bet, Pez.
I'm sorry, mate. Coronavirus has happened, and I cannot remember being in a pub.
Yeah, do you remember when you used to be able to go to a pub and watch footy there? Oh, but I've gone the exact same bet last year, Pez, and that got up, and I've gone West Coast to win, Liam Ryan for 2 goals, and I've put 25 on it, and I've put 15 on it.
The old two-leg special. Did you power play it?
Power played it, of course, mate. That gives me odds of 350, and I think that is absolute money for VBs. West Coast are going to win this game, and Liam Ryan, we just spent a whole segment talking about him rather than Collingwood versus West Coast. Absolute money for VBs. Take it to the bank, take it to the bottle-o, cash in, drink those ones in.
I do enjoy that. I hope that gets up, because Liam Ryan, one of my absolute favourites to watch. I wish he was in a St Kilda jumper, but that's not going to happen. So they're the 4 finals, Sauce. That's what's happening. You've pressed your cheeky button. I haven't pressed my cheeky button. You did your multi yesterday. I haven't done my multi yet.
Cheeky!
So we're about to do my multi. Just a 3-legger. There's 3 games, 3 legs. I've gone Richmond 1-39. So to win between 1 and 39 points.
Hate that
I
bet.
know you do, because you want Brisbane to win.
Brisbane's going to win by 50.
I've gone my Saints minus 11.5. Pick your own line. At $3.
I love that line. That's getting up. That one's in.
That's $3.20 by itself. And then West Coast, just a head-to-head. Keep it simple in the last game, $1.45 there. That gets $9.74 altogether. And I've just chucked 20 on it.
That's a real shame that it's going to lose on the Brisbane winning tonight by
Lose
50.
tonight, yeah.
Because otherwise, that is an absolute stellar bet. So take Richmond out of that, and punters jump on that, because we're all on the Lions now. We're on the Lions tonight. Pez, you're on the Lions too. Come on. You know that.
You know what? I actually do not mind who wins. Like, you'd love your money to win.
Well,
but
you play the loser if you win.
we play the loser?
Yeah.
I want Richmond to win then. I'm on Richmond. I'm all over Richmond.
I don't care who wins. Yeah. Actually, look at it, mate. Yes, you do.
I'm all over Richmond. I prefer to play Brisbane up at the Gabba than I would prefer to play Richmond.
You would... No, they would choose, so you'd have to play Brisbane and the Gabba.
Yep. They get their home final, so...
Where do you think Richmond would take the final?
Metricon.
Okay.
You asked me a question, I answered.
You were so determined with it.
You didn't expect
I didn't
it,
expect
did
you to have one straight away. I thought you had to think about it. It was like automatic. But that is the finals. Go Brisbane, go Richmond, go. If your team's still in, cheer for them, except for Collingwood.
Yeah, exactly right. If your team's not in, still try and enjoy the finals and try and think of what your club can do to get back in it. Because as a St Kilda fan, haven't been in it since 2011, and it's so good when your team, is still in with a chance. Like, we finished 6th. We're probably not up there with the least favourite in the whole 8 to actually win the premiership, but you're still alive. If you're in, you're in.
Yep, if you're in, you're in. And if you're out, make sure you jump on one of our older last podcasts that we had where we went through the teams that didn't make finals. We gave one of our favourite segments, as we always say at the show, #season over, and we went through what your team did, how they performed this year, what they did right, what they need to improve on, and how they make finals next year. So make sure you jump on there, hit the subscribe button so you get a notification, and make sure you jump on our Twitter, Fez.
Yeah, at Behind the Bound on Twitter, at Behind the Bound on Instagram as well, and then Behind the Boundary on Facebook. Enjoy the final, Sauce. I'm excited. There's just a couple of hours until this Brisbane-Richmond game. It's going to be massive. I'm Pez. Peace out.
I'm Sauce. We'll catch up next time, guys. And if you're having a punt, as always, bet responsibly.